bit nervous. Are you feeling a bit nervous?
No, oddly.
That's good. Okay, hello. We are Genetic Moo. My name is Nicola.
My name is Tim.
And welcome to our talk called
Interactive Art is the best.
Thanks to David Upton for asking us to do this, and of course to the Computer Art Society for inviting us to do a show, write a book, talk to you. Today is celebrating the creation of a book, a digital book, which is online available now. And in a month's time, there will be a printed copy available as well too. And we'll be presenting that at the EVA conference. I think it's July the 16th or 15th. We've got photographs of interaction. We've got a video of films and animations, and we've also got an interactive in the coffee area as well. A talk will be about an hour long. There are 60 slides that are just playing behind us. We're not talking to the slides. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to have a conversation with each other. Hopefully it'll be fun. We would like you to interrupt with questions. How you do that is up to you. You might put your hand up.
We're not having questions afterwards.
Yeah.
The last slide is a picture of a glass of wine. As soon as you see that slide, we're all going next door for a glass of wine. So it's exactly 1 hour talk. So you don't need to ask questions as we go along.
So just a small thing to say about the book. Tim will say a bit more in a minute, but just to say it's not just us writing in the book. We invited contributions to this book. So a big thank you to Ernest Edmonds and Sean Clark of the Computer Art Society, Carla Rappaport, founder of the Lumen Prize, Ed Liddell, curator at the Amelia Scott, Jack Addis and Richard Lewandowski, who are Kitmapper workers, employees, and David's here from Kitmapper as well. Hello. Claire Longrig, the Curator and Events Officer at the Ferrens Art Gallery. Julia Sharman, sound designer and artist, works on our music for our artworks. Isaac Collins, our 10-year-old superfan, and Rebecca Bell, who's an assistant curator at the Amelia Scott. So, Tim, over to you.
This is the first chapter of the book. We're going to be reading some stuff out. This is a book launch, so we'll be reading bits out, but not too much. This is the very first chapter. We make a small living as interactive artists. There are just two of us. We call ourselves Genetic Moo. We don't sell anything. How can you sell interaction? We don't teach professionally, but we have taught lots of free workshops in the past. So how have we survived? This book will explain how we started, how we kept going, how we made connections and scaled up our practice. You can see it as a self-help book for interactive artists. We'll discuss what we think interactive art is for and why it's the best. You'll discover how complex it is, but also how rewarding. And so that's the opening chapter. I'm going to just talk a little bit about money. What is a small living? To give you some context, we live in Margate. We've got no kids. We don't have a house. We don't have a car. We don't have any pets. And we started working on this project in 2008. It took us 10 years to get to the point where we were getting paid okay and we could go full time. So we had jobs for the first 10 years of it. And then for the last 5 years, we've made a living as interactive artists putting on large-scale interactive shows. And you saw the videos before, which are some of these shows. We get paid about £10,000 per show, an artist fee. And that's for a 3-month show, an exhibition with maybe 6 projections in a big space, open to the public and usually free. And if we do 4 of those, we consider we make a living, covers our rent and so forth like that. So this might seem a bit of an ugly way to start an art talk, talking about the money, but we see it as we've developed our own model for how we make a living and spend all our time making art, which is what the plan was in the first place. We love making art, and we want to spend all our time doing it. And there are lots of different models that artists have. Our particular model is this commission-based large-scale exhibitions which have built up over the years. So that gives you sort of a context to what our practice is. So Nicola's now going to read something out about what our views of art are, I suppose.
Yeah. So our take on interactive art. Roughly speaking, we consider video art as better than painting because it includes time. Then we see generative art as better than video because it can change over time. And finally, we see interactive art as better than generative art because it can change over time in response to an audience. So interactive art, generative art, time-based art, back to fixed art. When we say better, we mean better at exploring life, because with interactive art, your palette includes elements like time and motion. How can you explore what life is without time and motion? You also have gravity, collision, chaos, action, agency, cause and effect, consequences, entropy, death and starvation, but also creation, birth, reproduction and evolution. So you can work with all of life. Many of these things are hard to get across in paint. And importantly, you can work with humans as well.
Yeah, and humans are just really, we worked out that what our medium was actually agency and how we get humans to do various things in a space. And they never do what you want at all. It's a really complicated challenge to get people to behave themselves, have a believable engagement with their interactive art. And that's the challenge that keeps us really excited to try and figure out what are the best ways to do this. There are lots of different ways of doing interactive art. And we have various views on it, and there are ways to do. There are lots of bad interactive art around as well. So we think we're quite good at it. There's not many people who make interactive art. It's very complicated, and it's taken us.
Bad. What do you mean by bad, Tim?
There's a lot of interactive art which is a million particles flying around everywhere, and you kind of go up to it and you wave them around, and thousands move like this, and that's kind of it. There's nothing else really happens. So someone else comes in and waves them around. They're kind of fun to do, but they don't really go anywhere. They don't mean very much. They're a little bit corporate, I would say, and you can kind of almost press buttons now with AI in particular just to get these things generated and just fill ginormous spaces. So they're often like, they're really overwhelmingly huge and they work, but they're just they don't really give you much more than that. Engagement. So to us, they're fine. We enjoyed playing with those things. And we might talk a bit about some of the people who, well, TeamLab obviously is one of the biggest interactive art group in the world. They have about about 500 people work for them. Sure. They're so big they build their own museums, entire museums with their art. And it's ginormous scale, immersive, and a little bit hand-wavy. So there's often a hand-wavy sort of criticism of interactive art. That's all it is. You do that and something happens, which is fine. You'll probably see loads of slides with us waving our hands. So it's kind of, we are kind of...
It's the first thing you do.
We do, yeah, it's fine. But we try to add a little bit more than that.
Sorry, when you say like a Van Gogh exhibition will be interactive, right?
They're not really, are they?
Classify it as a good one or a bad one?
Well, this is immersive art, isn't it? And they've become they've started to take over the art world. They're everywhere. There's like about 20 in England now at this minute. Go up to cities around the country.
You see one
Van Gogh Experience or Klimt or whatever it is. Yeah, they're great because people go, they're bloody expensive, that's not good, but people go in and they engage and enjoy themselves, I suppose. So and then more and more of these get made, but they're a bit...
Well, I think it ties into something that I'll talk about now, which is the passive audience, is that there's not really much for people to do within those spaces. They can look awesome, be amazing, and possibly introduce the audience to art they've never seen before, which is fantastic, but perhaps there's not really very much else than that, just wandering around or being shunted around to see the work. And one of the things that we're really interested in is the active audience. What is the audience doing in the space? How can we make the space as open as possible for people to experience it in different ways and experiment with it in different ways?
David asked a question as a member of Exploding Cinema. So Nicola's going to talk a little bit about how she started in this whole area and it moved into interactive art. We didn't start out trying to be interactive artists. We came from different areas.
So if you forgive me, I will be reading again. This does come from the book, and I can get it into 3 minutes, but I think it's an insight into where we come from, because Tim and I have been doing this for a long time now. But we actually went to college like in the late 80s, so that's a long time ago before digital technology was even there. So I started out with filmmaking and fell in love with film as a material rather than as a storytelling technology. On my journey from 16mm installations to interactive art, that love of material gradually shifted to pixels and the audiences themselves, until the screen became the whole room, responding to the people moving inside it. I tried everything on my foundation course, including photography, performance, video and Super 8. I was fascinated by the physical side of film, the material and the handling of light and time. That's what led me to doing a BA in filmmaking at North East London Polytechnic. We filmed on 16mm, processed the black and white negative ourselves, used an amazing ramshackle contact printer to produce the positives. I spent hours in the darkroom in the photography department, totally absorbed in processing and manipulating the medium. I spent days in the edit suite rearranging shots again and again, more interested in rhythm and texture than narrative. And I kept bumping into the feeling that I wasn't actually interested in telling a story with a beginning, middle and end. Because the course was experimental, I was encouraged to explore other directions. I started making installations with loops of 16mm film running through projectors, stretching 33 feet across the space, casting moving light onto walls and constructed surfaces. This approach to filmmaking sits within expanded cinema, moving image practice that moves beyond the single screen projection to include multiple projections, installations, performance and other media, often making the audience experience central to the work. My installations awoke an earlier interest in halls of mirrors, ghost trains and haunted houses. I was excited by the idea that you moved through the film, your body inside the work, rather than sitting in front of it. I started to see audiences as active, walking around, looking around, stitching their own version of the piece together as they moved. Following a few years of teaching English, I moved back to London in 1999, wanting to get creative again. Video cameras were now very cheap, and even though I still carried the discipline of 16mm in my head, I liked the freedom of just picking up a camera and trying things out. Finding the screening collective Exploding Cinema was important. Still going strong, they're rough, energetic, no budget, anyone can show screenings, are generous and open, proving that film doesn't have to be precious, it can be messy, shared and live. I miss participating in art college tutorials, in particular discussing projects and getting feedback from a peer group. So I put a flyer out at Exploding Cinema event looking for people to form a film and performance collective. Over the next 4 years, 8 of us skills shared, made films, music and radio shows. This was the first iteration of Genetic Moo. Tim was the third person to join, bringing in coding skills and his own interest in using computers to create art. In 2004, we were invited to put on a show in the Foundry in Old Street. We were given the old bank vault in the basement, and the idea was that all involved would create work in response to the show's name, Powerful Sexual Moments. My inspiration for this show was a dried starfish, specifically a horned sea star. When I looked at it closely, the bumps and curves started to look like parts of the human body, breasts, knees, bottoms, folds of skin pressed into one another. I made a large 2x2 meter collage rebuilding the starfish body using photographic fragments of my own body at a 1:1 scale. It was like nothing I'd ever made before, creating a frisson of human and alien desire and disgust. Standing in front of it, I realized I wanted it to move, to respond to me as I came close. To do that, I would need new tools, code, sensors, some way of making this starfish creature responsive. I enrolled on an MA at the Lansdowne Centre for Electronic Arts at Middlesex University, and Tim had studied there a few years earlier. In the second year of my MA, in 2005, I enlisted Tim to help me with the starfish coding to move it on past my simple experiments. We wanted to give the starfish something like a digital metabolism, patterns of behaviour, not just pre-recorded animation. Our collaboration brought my film and installation experience together with Tim's interest in coding to simulate life. The second stage of Genetic Moo began. So after the MA, we spent about a year refining its behaviour and how it responded to the audience. It was the first outing in the group exhibition Electric Blue, curated by Rita Parente in 2008 at the Barge House in London. Looking back, it doesn't feel like I stopped being a filmmaker and became something else. It feels more like my attention slowly widened from a strip of film running through the projector to the room, to the people in the room, and then to the digital creatures they engaged with. Expanded cinema taught me to think of film as an environment and the audience as part of the work. Interactive art lets me push that further into systems that genuinely need the audience in order to exist.
I remember you telling me that you saw a piece of interactive art where you walked down a corridor or something, and then suddenly was it human at the end?
No, it was a photograph. It was in a show in Cardiff a very long time ago, probably the early 90s. And it was in a corridor, and it just looked like a projected photograph. and I walked up to it down this very long corridor, and then as I got to it, the figure, it was just the back of a woman with her hands on a chair, turned round. Janice Howard made it, and I ran backwards and ran back into someone, and it scared the life out of me, but I've never forgotten it. It was the most thrilling experience I ever had in an art show.
And in the early days, well, the starfish was the first piece we ever made, and so Nicola had already made it as a photo collage, big thing. I don't know if it's in one of these photos, but we're still using the starfish now, years later. But yeah, Nicola asked if I could help her animate it and make it come to life. And this is about in 2006, somewhere around there.
Oh yeah, 7.
It got shown in 2008, but we were sort of trying to figure it all out. And you went to college to learn some coding to do it, but couldn't get far enough with that. And we were using really weird old technology. Well, we were using Flash and IceWeb, I think, was a really old interactive technology. None of these things, the tools we're using now existed. I mean, the main tool we use now is processing, so that came in. Well, that was there, but it wasn't sort of as sort of stable and used by everybody by then. And the Kinect sensor, which is in the coffee room, it's a sensor we used a lot. It's an infrared sensor, so it can detect where humans are in a space. So these technologies came in sort of a bit later on. So we were trying to scrabble together stuff and trying to figure out how to do it in the early days. And there was much more of a focus on this type of visual. The starfish, that isn't starfish, but it's got little fingery creatures. The starfish head was collage from Nicola's body parts, sexual parts and everything. So there was a kind of an attraction disgust aspect to the work, which has sort of diminished over the years as we've worked with bigger organisations.
But I tell you what, we were thinking about how this idea of humans communicating, or how might they communicate with this alien being, making sense of something. So it was really important that the interaction in it wasn't simply responding to what the audience was doing, but it might have its own set of behaviours, so that the audience was encouraged to interpret what was happening and respond to it.
So it was interactive. It was an interactive piece about having an interaction with an alien creature that you couldn't quite work out what it was doing. So although you say you're not interested in telling stories with film, we do create stuff that creates these sort of what I call micro narratives now. So there are little bits of cause and effect that are happening, and so people responding to that start developing their own stories beyond what we've put into it. So that's quite, people bring things or they assume that these things are actually lifelike. They're more lifelike than they are. And we know they're just a bunch of simple algorithms, but people actually just, we had early attractions to go, friends of ours would go, oh, that one really likes you, and that one doesn't. And, stroking it and treating it like as if they were really living things. And we were kind of fascinated with this, how people actually really invest a lot in an engagement with a digital creature.
So
that's the starfish now, actually. That's part of it, that white thing. Because over the years we had to knock out all the sexual stuff because of, this is at Somerset House with Kit Mapper. So some family audience, you can't have breasts and stuff floating all over the place.
You could, but it's just sometimes, you should.
Well, we've done it, and we did, the first show we did, various people ran out in screaming, basically. But there was also a piece, admittedly there was a piece of my body parts as well. You know what I mean? It was the urchin. There were two of them sort of communicating across the space, so maybe.
But listen, I just want to flag up, we've got titles for different sections, and I'm just going to move into our love story. And our love story is actually technology, that Tim and I were obviously exploring lots of different types of technology. I'd gone from 16mm to digital because it really made sense to me. But then we were interested in sensors and programming, and our journey with interactive art has seen all of the changes that are happening with all that technology. And we see that as an evolution within the creatures themselves. That, well, okay, so that one, I mean, the starfish in the early days, believe it or not, we used an overhead projector to simulate infrared light to help IceWeb find the body. I mean, it was really...
It leaks a lot of infrared.
Yeah,
it wasn't designed to do that. It just leaked a lot.
It was so fragile, it was unbelievable, but we were still learning loads. And
back then we considered we were both technicians. So Nicola did a lot of film technician when I was at college, and I was a sort of programmer and doing websites and things. And we didn't really think of ourselves as artists, but when we put the servers together, suddenly it sort of
We
seemed to
could
work
equal
as an
art.
as an art project. So, yeah, so that's why we sort of, you know, fell in love with the technological aspect of it. And also, it's been our entire life. We don't have any kids. This is all we do.
And
You
we
know,
worked
we
together
spend all our time
before.
talking and thinking about this and like boring everyone else's head off about it, sort of thing.
We
Do you want
did
me to
get
read my
together
bit
as
out?
technicians first, yeah.
Yeah, actually, well, okay. I remember the exact point when Nicola said, "Can you help me code this thing?" It was like she was proposing to me. Something like that. I remember exactly. You know, it's one of those kind of you suddenly your life just changes. The whole thing. I thought, wow, and it did.
You see your flat in Margate when you had, I think that's where the most...
No, it was in Peckham. We were in Peckham at the time. I know exactly where it was, Duffy.
During COVID, but the time you had during COVID,
Oh, that was-
that you had the most of your characters,
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
little monster,
Yeah.
in a very small room, Pamati.
Yeah, we did.
4 rooms, Pamati, they were...
We were, it's true, in lockdown we created a micro world at home project, and for the whole of the lockdown we transmitted from our space and we lived with all of our family, our digital creatures.
And Nicola learned much more how to code. She
Yeah.
decided, right, I'm good at, you know,
Let's
everyone
go
had
for
all
it.
this time. So like,
Yeah.
you know, so
Anyway, over to you.
okay, so
Can I ask
Yeah, please.
Do you find that children and their lack of inhibition
Wonderful.
makes better interactions with the pieces?
absolutely.
Because I know I would be, even though I'm not particularly afraid of this sort of stuff, I'm quite awkward when it comes
What
to
we-
interacting with stuff. on
But
screen.
that, I mean,
Well, we
so
are going to do a section called "Are We Just Children's Entertainers?"
Yes,
so
so
we'll
we'll
get to
come
that
to
later.
that.
Yeah, but obviously they just naturally
Yeah.
they don't they just want to learn and play. So it's like that. That's cool. So this is a little bit about my background. I'm 60. We're both about 60. I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a TV. This is from 1980 or something. I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a TV where you could control what was on it. All you had to do was learn the rules of coding, and you could start to change the screen world 1 pixel at a time. In 1981, the BBC Micro was launched in the UK, and our family got on quite early on. I began to experiment on programs aged about 16. By now, the computer was in my bedroom. I had a go at writing a couple of games, but what really enthralled me was simple programs which allowed me to follow the activity of hundreds of pixels across the screen. I began to concoct my own little abstract worlds. Using randomness was the key. Now the pixels will go their own way outside of my direct control. With a handful of lines of code, I could add pixels to the screen randomly, one at a time. I would sit transfixed past midnight with the lights out, watching these silent algorithms go about their work, shuffling around the screen. I'd pick a clear spot on the screen and see how long I could last there undisturbed. If a pixel landed on me, then I would pick another spot and so on until the entire screen was filled up. Which pixels would be safest the longest? How did randomness work on a computer? Were there patterns in the chaos, and how were these pixels sucking me into this world? So this is in the 80s. And obviously, I was also going down the arcade every other minute and playing Pac-Man and Space Invaders and Tempest and Defender, these amazing golden age of video games, which had these, they were just on tiny screens, but they were these points of light animating and sucking you into this kind of often kind of science fiction, alien type, Space Invader type world, which is like, I'm sure a lot of people in computer art society, Sean and Jeff like that, we have similar, similar sort of beginnings with computing back in those early days. I then got into artificial life, which is a branch of computer science where you try to give, you're looking at using little algorithms to create lifelike things. So the famous one is called The Game of Life by John Conway. So it's a cellular automata, lots of pixels. You might see bits of ones in some of the programs.
Yeah.
Which an entire generation got kind of fascinated with these. You use with the very simple rules, you can create these amazingly intricate patterns. Some of which are lifelike, others are kind of like spreading of disease or whatever, and just got kind of sucked into this the ability to control these little tiny worlds and play with them. So when Nicola asked me to do this code of Starfish, and I could see, yeah, okay, this could our skills here could come together. And we can make interactive art. So you do need a range of skills to do interactive art. I think you can't. It's just not. It's not. And collaboration is kind of a big part of it.
So can I just ask, has anyone got any questions at the moment? Yes.
I'd like to say many questions. I'm a little younger, but I've got very similar memories of early 80s computers. Where do I start? Because you just started talking about Conway, and my brain started going in that direction. I was actually interested because you mentioned the Kinect as being, obviously it's in your installation out there. and obviously that's about 15 years old. And you mentioned just before that you had an alternative system for the first iteration of the Starship.
Yeah.
Because I think that
Yeah.
was predating the Kinect.
Yes.
You're obviously still using the Kinect. I wonder where that journey's gone in terms of like evolution of the tool, because Kinect isn't really a thing.
Kinect's defunct. It died sort of straight away, didn't
But
it?
so if I
Died
can
a death.
just say before Tim can get into the nuts and bolts of
Yeah.
it, one of the things that's really important to us is that we use everyday available technology. And that's good for us, it's good for the galleries we show in, because there's no horror story if something packs up. And as it goes with the Kinect, although it's not supported anymore, it's really unusual that Kinect sensor stops working. It's happened once to us.
rock solid piece of technology.
15 years, once. the Kinect
Although,
stopped
to run
working.
it, you have to use these really old computers. And then we also use remote PC to control these really old computers, and things will stop talking at some point. So we currently use RealSense, which is an even smaller
It's a
infrared
plug and
camera.
play USB.
That's also defunct. That's not supported anymore. But the main reason we use these old technologies and processing, which is a language we use, is because we want to encourage other people to get into this area and code stuff. So if we're using really complicated, expensive technology, it's just off-putting. So we use really basic stuff, just everyday webcams we use in our pieces as well. And we used to do loads and loads of workshops teaching people how to do coding. You know, it's so you can get into it really quickly. We taught Jan how to get started it the other day, sort of thing. You know,
And
in
the
an
book,
hour or whatever.
in the back of the book.
There's
you
a
can do.
coding a case study in the book, or example where you can have a go in the book using the online version of processing. So yeah, that's the reason why we keep the technology kind of low and crappy. And as a result of that, our stuff is not super high resolution. We can't move 10 million pixels around. We're not interested in 3D particularly, because the computer language you use, because it's so accessible and easy for everyone to use, is also pretty slow. I mean, it's terrible. It's really slow.
But we work with it. We work with
we
those
squeeze out,
constraints.
stuff within
and the interesting thing about that as well is that in terms of any audience coming in, if they see our technology, they may recognise it, but they'll certainly feel comfortable with it if they do. It's not the thing, it's not the most important thing in the space. What we're hoping to do is create content that is playable, you can explore it, you can have fun with it, you can collaborate with it because it's multi-user engagement, but you're not overwhelmed by the technology that's running it. You don't feel like I need to get a qualification to understand how this works.
It's also the venues are reassured that this technology is all pretty easily replaceable. You know, if something goes wrong, if we can either remote PC in, and usually it's just a webcam's got unplugged or something, or a kid's bashed something. Usually fix it in 10 minutes. So it's kind of reassuring to them that they're not using super complicated stuff that can.
But perhaps another interesting thing about using readily available cheap technology is it allowed us to scale up our practice. One of the things we realised quite soon was that, well, look, we've got a bunch of creatures. We can create a digital ecosystem, and it's a modular one, and it's a sensor, it's a computer, it's a projector, and maybe it's a microphone and speakers as well. But it becomes very, very straightforward for any technicians that may be installing it, for galleries to make sense of it, for any interpretation to be able to explain it to the audience how it works. It also makes it easily replaceable if something doesn't work as well.
Yeah, we don't particularly like instructions with interactive art. We want people just to engage without having to think about it. So kids will just run in and start doing something, and the parents might slowly get sort of sucked into it. Because in the early days, we went to see an amazing piece of interactive art. Where it was at the Barbican. Using the Kinect, it was a bird piece, so you had to go into space, and there's three ginormous birds would sort of take your body pose and then fly up, and then thousands of bats would fly out of it. It was an amazing piece, but we sort of we went into it and we got told off within about 30 seconds because we were doing it wrong or something. It was sort of like we were trying to work out where the sensor was, and we weren't standing in the right position exactly. And then we just thought, oh, that is awful. From then on, we decided, right, we want to make interactive.
And it's not that, let's be clear, it wasn't the artist that was awful. The work was amazing. It was the fact that it was perhaps a little bit too complicated.
This is early days. In the early days of Kinect,
deliver.
you did have to hold the T pose for it to lock in, and then they got rid of that. Someone improved the models. You didn't have to. So you had to go and stand there, do this, do that.
It also meant people had to queue up to engage. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything more frustrating we had to queue up today just to get into the Tate Modern because they were doing bag checks. And if you have to do that to the art as well, that's like super frustrating.
I was thinking another one actually. I mean, UVA are brilliant, but they have a piece which is sort of one person at a time. You go and interact with this thing, and it's this kind of cylindrical, 3D, blobby shape. It changes over time, and it moves with you, and it kind of does this, which is amazing. But you have to, if you're standing in the queue, you can see the person in front of you, and they've done it, and then you kind of have to go in and do your bit, and then it's like, what's the point? So I don't really, we just leave, ours is completely open, we just let people go anywhere. I mean, that also means because it's so open, but we can't just have pieces like, say for example, a multiple in that end room now, because there's no one in the space, there's nothing on the screen at all. It's like interactive art. We did a show with Sean, and we were trying to figure out what happens when interactive art's got no one to interact with. What's the point? It's just sat there doing nothing. Well, between us, we worked out, right, let's make these interactive pieces look at each other and get kind of colour information or sound information from each other. So they create their own kind of ecosystem. Sean's a system artist, and we became very interested in ecosystems and how we could use ideas from ecosystems to create a richer space which kind of has its own life livingness to it, I suppose, living quality, whatever. But yeah, we try to avoid pieces where there's nothing there. So even when you're not interacting, because not everyone likes to interact, we know that. Lots of people just go and look at it as if it's...
Are there any more questions?
You know, it's a piece of, it's a painting or something, and it's not, you know, they don't really get it, but then they'll be looking at other people doing it, and then, you know, it's a big performance space as well as everything else. So we have to not just think about what the...
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything in which your works interact with someone else's works as well as possibly?
Yeah.
We try.
Well, we did it with Sean. So in 2012,
we did a lot in the early
Symbiotic.
days. We used to create our own shows because we usually be in group shows with like Sandra and Yokas and some of the people here, like, and that's fine. But then you're in a mixed show, and we wanted to control it and be more use more computerized stuff, digital stuff. So yeah, we'd be in spaces where lots of things are looking at each other and responding and playing sound at the same time, and try and work out how to make that not a chaotic nightmare sort of thing. So yeah, we often do that.
And we do it in the Microworld projects as well. So that's why we see each of our artworks as having a senses.
We want to do more of that. I mean, Sean at the back, systems artist, it's just inputs and outputs. Each piece does an output. Each piece has got sensors, and that's an input as well. So you can start to try and do some interesting things. And we've done bits in that direction. We want to do some more. We used to be, I should say, well, we are in the London group. We used to be on the London group committee. There's lots of London group members here. And we used to do their websites and all that stuff and create these kind of in the dark shows where any members could bring in art as long as it kind of provided its own light. It's a mixed group, every different type of artist. But we sort of left that committee and we joined the CASCOM committee recently. And then as soon as we joined it, David said, right, you've got to do a show and then write a book as well. So we've got loads more stuff to do, which is cool. But we want to work more with the actual CAS members to make it more vibrant and more collaborative, like you're saying. So yeah, we definitely want to do that. Yeah.
To experiment, yes.
I was just wondering about hive behaviour. So when I was at the Team Lab, I think it was the water thing in Tokyo, I've got the feeling that there was the participants' responses were being fed back, and that those sorts of that data was then changing some of the interactive installation around. So I wondered whether you use kind of that idea of hive behaviour, like people moving and that actually changes.
Oh, you mean that everyone moving as a whole in a space? I mean, interactive art is inherently...
And then people sort of gather in one particular place because they're looking at something and then group together in somewhere else. And you see this kind of movement, a bit like, if you're snorkeling and you look down and the fishes are moving in the ocean.
Yes, we tried to do that, but we don't have bigger space as they do. But yeah, we absolutely, when you put, this space is kind of big enough for 4 big interactives. When someone goes nearer to one, that'll start doing more stuff. So it's got kind of a bit of what you're talking about. And then other people might be encouraged, to do more stuff, to go along with that one. And then the other ones will go a bit quieter because there's no one right in front of
But
them.
it's certainly interaction in itself, human interaction, the humans doing things encourages a response from other humans in the space anyway. You're watching others and you may be learning something about how someone's doing something, and it's not because it's a rule-based interaction, it's just they've explored it in a slightly different way. You'll discover that multiple users can go into the space and create something, so you might then explore it with someone else and stretch something. And I think that's what's particularly interesting to us, is that we create what I'd call open interactive spaces, in as far as that we're not creating a game. There's no goal to achieve, oh no, this, you haven't achieved 100 points or whatever, and then that's the end of it. It's actually to explore it and to play with it. And of course, if you get collaboration with it, within it as well, you may well see people doing things that you didn't expect. So it's just trying to create a latent space. You know, I always said we have webcams that can pick up light. So if someone goes in with a torch and that torch interacts in some way with the work, well then someone could drive in with a car and turn on headlights, and that would have a more, you know, an amplified effect. It's just trying to create a robust enough system that it won't fall over because someone does something unexpected. So at this moment in time, the most challenging thing for us is kids jumping on sensors, you know.
Yeah. Well, we did make the sensors kind of exactly the same size as those kind of climbing frames where you go up, you know, the walls with that thing. So it's like, I can see that some kids have been climbing. It's the one in Eureka, which we'll have to have a look at, Dave. But yeah.
Yes, so interactive is the best, Tim. Interactive art is the best.
Right.
Computer art. Now, are there any other questions? Otherwise, we'll just plough on. Sean.
I've got one here from the internet. Now, do you find that people interact with each other in the work?
Yeah.
Yeah, we encourage that. I mean, each piece typically would have about 4 or so people, and yeah, of course, it's all about play and experimentation. We never say only one person at a time. That's the opposite of what we want.
I mean, maybe you could say something about flow, because the thing is that when you go into a space and you're interacting with something, you are doing something rather than thinking about it. And then what actually can happen, and certainly amongst children, is that they may start playing with the people that they didn't actually go to the exhibition with. And people just get over interpreting, but actually want to see what action does. So
yeah, and they'll just do usual things that humans do when they play together. They'll hold hands and make kind of rippling patterns and things like this. I mean, or parents and kids will play together, making. I mean, you can see the kind of chaos that's going on in that particular one with a bunch of whatever those are called, noodles and hoops and things. It's like yeah, it becomes we want people to play together. That's kind of
happened in Hull, where it became quite chaotic with all the props and things that everyone was throwing around.
it was in Wolverhampton.
Oh, right.
We had lots of noodles in Wolverhampton in
there's
the
a
art
big box of
gallery
noodles,
there.
which are those long things.
And the kids started having fights with them. So
literally,
it was,
they didn't care about the art. They just got them outside
And
and
it
whacking
didn't
each
matter
other.
whether they
and
knew
actually,
the
the
kids
curator
or
came
not.
in and she started whacking
Yeah,
people,
I mean, it's yeah.
which is fine.
What can you say? In fact, the adults actually start playing as well. I think people get over inhibitions because they see what's going on in the space. We've got a number of pieces that respond to sound. That is challenging. Kids don't mind making a sound. An adult will struggle singing. But we've heard of cases where 3 opera singers went into one of our shows in Norway and started serenading the creatures in there, which these are really special moments for us.
Yeah, unexpected. We don't kind of. We know kind of the types of things people do. We don't know exactly what people are going to do. So it's kind of when we see people doing something odd and different with a piece, then we think, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe we could develop some more pieces and feed off that idea. So we put different bits together, and then sometimes one of those is being interacted with kids in a particular way. Sticky, as it was called, in that multiple a Microworld show, which was a bunch of seashells kind of falling down and then going back up and the kids were just, these younger kids were just going in and bashing the hell out of it and just going in, whacking stuff, running out, going back in like that on a kind of, so then we thought, oh, we'll design a whole show around this idea. So this became this show, which is our second sort of big offer or whatever show. It's called Magic Place, which is all about pure interaction. So Nicola wrote these kind of emoji trigger as a kind of the interface for it. So these little faces drop down, and if you hit them with your silhouette, they'll trigger some different pattern in the background, or some different characters will appear, And that's the show we've kind of been doing quite a lot at the
But
moment.
maybe I should say at this point, we often say that our medium is agency. So rather than saying I'm a filmmaker or I'm a digital artist or I'm an animator or Tim saying he's a programmer or whatever, and
We're
therefore
trying to work out
we are
what
digital
is
artists.
what is our medium. People kept
Yeah.
asking.
So we say agency because then what it demonstrates is that we are actually genuinely interested in what the audience is doing. And for some people, for some artists, that's of no interest whatsoever. And that's fine. It's just, it's worth pulling out into the front the fact that our work is absolutely about engagement, and therefore we are fascinated by trying to create spaces that people want to enter. And don't forget, I said about ghost trains and halls of mirrors, I like to create situations that may also create a little anxiety, and a dark space can do that. And sometimes some of our shows, they might, I mean, we've had soundtracks, Julia, that maybe were a bit dark, and so sometimes a little encouragement may have been needed for families to go in. So when we think about it and we negotiate, we discuss it, we're exploring how these spaces work. But giving a child and an adult something, like a little bit stimulating, just like my experience with Janice Howard's work, is,
we obviously it's projected light, so we need a dark space, which is why joining the London Group, it's kind of an odd thing for us to do, but that we've done our best with it, and we've got, we create these sort of rooms, which is a darker room or something like that. We work a load of, block out all the windows and stuff. All the painters want loads and loads of light. We want no light, sort of thing. It's kind of like opposite thing, but it works, and you can get kind of interesting conversations going on. But we love the dark. We have to have the dark because it's projected pixels. So we have the dark, and when things are dark, we should have done this talk in the dark really. When things are dark, suddenly you get this, your brain changes its wave patterns. It becomes an exciting state to be in. It's like, we consider it like cave people at the end of the day sitting around a fire or something, and they start to get into kind of storytelling mode, and they're discussing, what hunting and gathering or whatever they've done in the day. Whereas in the day, they're just getting about the business, but it becomes this kind of, this magical creative space. So we don't consider that we're creating stories, but we consider with the fire, we create a space in which people can a dark space, in which people can experience this kind of magical thing. And that's quite a dark one there. Sometimes younger people do find it a bit scary to go into. It's a bit like, oh, that's a weird noise, what's going to happen there, sort of thing. So dark is good.
Any questions? Yes, Ash?
What's the difference between the children and the other audience? Because I know you usually focus on children. Do you see any special things in the dark room?
So I think, there is a difference, obviously, in the engagement between children. They're uninhibited, they'll go in, they'll jump, they don't need to read anything, they will do it. The adult invariably wants to go in, learn a little bit. So it's a good question because Magic Place, which Tim mentioned earlier, we said, look, the children don't need any encouragement. We need to actually assist the older generation by giving them some stories. So it might be using recognizable video game imagery, motifs from records that came out in the 80s or 90s, something to hold on to.
Synthesizers,
synthesizers.
Fairlight computers, stuff
and
like
then,
this.
And then the parent or the adult can say to the child, oh, but by the way, this is Pac-Man, or that is OMD's album cover, or, whatever it is. They've got stories between them to tell. So we actually wrote down on our whiteboard, it's not the kids that need empowering, it's actually the adults who need to feel like they can go in there and have something to contribute.
We do this. We do a project with Eureka, which is a sort of semi-permanent installation in the Children's Museum, National Children's Museum, which is in Halifax. And they're obviously experts at figuring out engagements with kids like so big, and their grandparents and their parents, all different types. But what they've through conversations with them, the show's been running for about 5 or 6 months, but it's going to be running for a lot longer, hopefully, is that it's what the parents want is to be able to encourage their children to play. They're fine just watching the kids play, but the parents want a bit of something that they can tell their kids what is going on, sort of thing, so that they feel invested in this experience that their kid is having, rather than some parents will just sit there and just get on the phone and do nothing. And we also provide chairs for people to just allow the kids to run wild. This is a show designed for young kids, by the way. But yeah, we're trying to figure out better ways to give the parents a sense that they're in control, because the parents don't really want to jump around. Some do, but not a lot.
No, but say, like, for example, we've got a piece in there in the Magic Place, which is birds falling, and you know, they're emoji birds, and each one has a different note, and then you press a different thing and you get different instruments. So an older person perhaps can interpret what's going on, and then they can say, oh, you know, do that, or if two get in the space. So it gives them a way in for explanation. But I think there was another question as well, yeah?
Yeah, in terms of the spaces you show in, is there a lot of pressure for them to put on things, you know, like millions of particles and like things like moving cockneys and castles?
In fact, the people, for us, the people who are, you know, commission us to do the shows, by the time that it's happening, they know exactly what they're getting, and I think they're interested in the fact that there are narratives within it. So within our micro world, there's biological references, there's references to artificial life, there's also, and we also work with the collections teams to bring in elements from the museums, because it's often museums we're working with.
In terms of the actual question, no, do you say they're pressured to do Hockney, things like that? The thing is that those things are out of their budget. These places, these are provincial museums up and down the country. They typically might have a budget of about, who's that? Is that Stuffish? What time do you call this? Sorry, boss. Yeah, they might have a budget of about £100,000 for the whole year. And this is being squeezed all the time. So they might do 4 shows, right? And our show would cost, say, 40 grand. We might get 10. The technicians might get 10. The producer might get 10. And then there's a sort of an extra bit for educational and stuff like this.
The equipment and everything as
Oh
well.
yeah, it depends. Some places have projectors, others don't. So equipment hire. So they've got to fit all of this in the year. So to get one of these Van Gogh, they're too expensive. They must cost 100 grand each or something. So I don't think the places we work are not that big.
Yeah, in fact, David's
budgeted.
Probably better equipped to answer that question.
Like 300, probably, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want
$500,000
Marshmallow Laser Feast or some of these amazing ones, it's going to cost you a lot more.
So then,
we are
to
cheap,
answer the question,
basically.
then they probably start off thinking they want that, and then very quickly they discover they can't. And then, for example, David at Kitmap would say, "But do you know what?"
But actually, sometimes it works. They might have a show by us, and then they might think, okay, that worked really well. Let's get a different one, show by some other people. So they might figure it out, raise a bit more money, get Marpy. I don't know how much he costs, but he's like, a big superstar in America, does interactive stuff. So yeah, there's lots of. So it's not, they're not pressurised necessarily. They're starting to dip their toes into. To be honest, a lot of these places are not. They're beginning the last, say, 10 or so years, starting to explore this stuff and realising that actually the audience really engages well with it. Because people come to the museums who've never been to museums before. People come back repeatedly. We have a #1 fan who came 14 times to one show that was on for 3 months. So we got him a special invited him down to Somerset House, and he's written the last chapter of the book for us, actually. So we'll get a free book and all. It's called Isaac, 10-year-old boy, on the spectrum. He's really, really focused and really just learned everything about this show, and it was like, teaching everyone else how to do it, sort of thing. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, I'll ask David first and then come back to you, yeah?
I think one of the things that we found working with museums is that actually also it's got provenance. It's been places before, and you they know that it's been in places, it's been successful. Spending a lot of money and taking risk for a local authority, regional museum, it's a real challenge for them. So kind of getting most of it's been benchmarked and proven by somewhere else, it makes it a really attractive prospect.
Yeah, good.
So my question was about the museum and working with the collection. You said sometimes you take things from the collection in a small museum and you kind of repurpose it within your part of your assets that you're using. So do you have any evidence or any stories about people then going to the museum, the traditional part of the museum, to look at those?
Yes, but in fact, so this is a dialogue. So because we've got Microworld and we've got Magic Place, these are the offers. So instead of Microworld or Magic Place always being the same wherever it goes, it's our working with the collections that makes the difference, and we work with the teams. So then a perfect case is the Amelia Scott Museum. where they will actually signpost the exhibits around the building, and they'll do a trail. They may have printed out sheets saying, can you find these objects? So they will make a positive link with it. So it's hugely powerful for the museums. It's an add-on to, I mean, it makes the councils very happy because all the museums they are using, you know, people's money to, you know, taxpayers' money to fund these. So to actually show it's what the Arts Council wanted, new ways of engaging with your collections. And it's fun for us because we're happy to actually bring, with the Amelia Scott, they have a wonderful collection of Victorian toys which we were able to bring into our work as well. So we're completely up for that.
Also, they often have educational budgets, so that's a separate budget than the production budget. So we try we used to try, and probably still will do, but do workshops with a group of people that they have to create new digital art assets and stick those into the show. So we do go and do workshops beforehand. So we try to make much more direct links. We want everyone to be creative with computers, and sometimes that, you know, that's one possible way to do it.
Yes.
I'm very intrigued by all these sort of opportunities you've mentioned, but I still think generally, as a sort of art form or as a event, it's in its infancy, all of this that we're talking about. And I wanted to make a point about one particular place, the Barbican. You've mentioned it. You've obviously worked there, or you're aware of what's happening there. And you probably know that the whole of the Barbican Centre at the moment is going through an upgrade. In fact, a £250 million is being spent on it. Enough to change it a bit. Now, I'm an architect, but I find that most of my colleagues, and including the people who are doing all the work very efficiently in the Barbican, they're not in the 21st century. In other words, they don't know about any of the things that you've been talking about. Or if they do know about them, they don't feel it's anything to do with them. Now, the Barbican is an absolute ideal place to create this activity, and it's not happening. So what I'm trying to suggest to you is there a way that we could do this? I mean, I know I can go to talk to people, but just talking to people won't do it. I want to give an illustration. The London Symphony Orchestra is the main orchestra that performs in the Barbican, and they obviously perform in the hall. And the Barbican is unusual because of the way it's designed. It has huge foyer space, much, much bigger than normal. And I have a dream, which is that, let's say, not the LSO for the moment, let's say it's an Indian Durbar happening in the hall, but copying what the LSO are doing at the moment, they have an identity which is called Always Moving, and it's been going for some years. I know the people who designed it, and it's a graphic identity, but it influences everything. It influences everything they print, programs, but it's still very much a lesser activity compared with the music, as you would expect. What they've done this year is they've changed the way of creating this identity by wiring up 5 members of the audience. I'm not one of them. Therefore, they are registering the emotions that people are feeling as they're watching music. And then graphically, they are using these images to present on posters, adverts, programs, and so on. Now, I want them to go much further, to take that idea and bring it into the foyer, so that you've actually got a proper audio-visual show.
Well, so first of all, if you don't mind me saying this, I would say check out the book that we've just written, because it is an insight. So one of the things we're doing is promoting a book called Interactive Art with Genetic Moo, and it actually takes you through all the different stages from the production to production. It's free online. It's free online, so when you go out, take a leaflet, or I'll give you one to get that, because that's an insight into it. The second thing is, you've raised a thing which is I feel very strongly about, and is encumbered technology. You know, it's all very well giving 5 people sensors to wear and then outputting something, and in this case it's a print. But then it means that there's thousands of people just watching that happening and not being part of it. So we're very interested in the fact that we use, as I say, a space where multiple people can engage. It's a sensor that will pick up everyone. It'll pick up a guide dog. It'll pick up a wheelchair. It'll pick up a swimming noodle, you know, whatever. But I would suggest that let me give you
the Barbican in the Cove have been doing interactive art mixed in with other things for several years, but they don't do it particularly well. But they are doing it, and we've got them on the list. We're going to approach them more directly to.
Just that now is there an opportunity to
For
yes,
sure,
we're going to send them a book.
Yeah, we'll do that.
The Barbican is spending all this money, and they're not creating anything new.
We sort of feel that this is a bit an overreach here. We should just interactive art for us should disrupt the entire traditional art world and take over all these spaces, because the audience wants this. They just really love engaging with technological art. They don't have to know anything about art history and stuff like 100 years of art history, or thousands of years of art history. They just get in and
yeah, I mean, I can throw in
enjoy
something
it.
controversial.
So we are going to have a good effort at the Barbican.
So Tim,
because they do have an amazing space.
I'd like to just say, one of the things we had here was nothing versus something. So Anna Dimitriou did a fantastic talk here a few weeks ago about her practice, which is absolutely, you couldn't get richer in terms of content. And, you know, very well researched, involves lots of other people, etc. Fascinating, and every object.
It's about famines, pestilence, plague, bacteria, disease. And her partner, Alex May, he also makes art about memory, time. These amazing, big, meaty subjects. Whereas we were thinking when they were doing this stuff, right, we've got to do it. Hold on, what's our art about? Art is about nothing. It's about being physically in a space and just moving around. It's just like experiencing it. There's no kind of grand text you have to learn or any history at all you have to learn. And that's why it really appeals. And for us, it feels like it's got a potential to go much, much further than it is already. But we're we're small scale. We're not intending to get a big like team lab or anything. We can't do it. There's just 2 of us, and we're happy at this sort of level. But there are groups where there's about 20 people. There's groups where there's hundreds of people. You know, there's possibilities, and I think art will move more and more in this direction to the 21st century, like you said.
Have you had any chance to take your work into schools, and particularly perhaps schools for disabled people and
yeah, we did a load of that.
Beautiful.
We did a load of that in the early days, but we absolutely hate going into schools. They're such horrible places to be. But
yeah, the bureaucracy.
We taught kids. We taught loads of kids coding.
They'd be less horrible.
No,
they're just horrible.
It's the schools, it's the bureaucracy. It's the
teachers don't like us. Well, and we don't do so much this anymore. But yes, we'd go in and teach 100. We teach 100 kids 4 different lessons or whatever. How to
but
create.
Then you're talking about the workshops. In terms of taking the artwork in, that's a different story.
Well, no, we get them to create art, and then they project it in their space immediately.
So because we're showing in galleries that are, you know, council-run galleries, museums, whatever, then we have lots of school groups go into those.
And all these shows will have special days, special needs days and things like that, quiet days, things like that, where there's turn the sound down, make it darker. They'll have special days where people can go in within these shows, which last for a month, 3 or 4 months or something. So that is sort of rolled into it, and it works really well.
That's why we like free shows, so then there can be repeat visits.
But actually going into schools and doing that now,
it's been painful.
We did in the early days. I just don't fit. I just kind of.
Well, you're not. I mean, I'm a
she's
qualified teacher.
You'd be a teacher,
I'm a teacher.
So you'd do it. But I wouldn't. I've had enough of it. I got a bit sick of teaching kids how to create a square or something.
We did. We did a project in Putney, It was for neurological disorders in Putney, and it was people
quadriplegic people.
They had strokes and they were completely paralysed, and they asked us to take an interactive in. So we created a piece that worked with shadows, so they could be wheeled in these really rather massive.
Over the years, quite often we've had a kid come in who's on the spectrum or something, and will be super focused doing something, and a parent will come to and say, "I've never seen my kid like that." In a space, half an hour, he kept still and went through every level of this thing. And then So I just said, right, well, you need to get a Mac Mini and blah, 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 blah. And it's not really sort of, but now I realise we've got loads of old kit now because we build up buy all these old machines. So now I should sort of have it there and say, right, here it is. Put it in your living room and you can, knock yourself out with it. Because it does for a certain...
Right, are there any more questions? Because I sense that the glass of wine is going to appear any second.
Yes, last question.
Yeah, any questions from online?
I've got one here. So somebody says that they were quite inhibited as a child. Do you do different things to encourage less exuberance?
We do have more contemplative interaction. It's a really good question because whereas Magic Place is tightly coupled interaction, you do something, something and something happens. We have pieces that are much more subtle, change over time.
We had one where you had to if you kept still for 2 minutes, you get a mark appears on the wall behind us. It's lichen. So if you moved around, nothing happened. But if you kept still, it had to have a little instruction, that one, because no one would have got it. Then you'd eventually grow your silhouette. So yeah, we do try to mix different levels of interactivity within single shows.
The show we had in Farron's we called Cascade. So this was where the pieces were all responding to each other. So 4 screens, each one looking to its neighbour, and it created this lovely flow. And the gallery set up bean bags, and they had like a little, almost like a picnic area. They had a micro lab where people could play games with their kids, and it was a really, really beautiful space to be.
You could just chill out. Yeah, you could just lie down and watch things change slowly over an hour, like being at the beach or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
We're happy if we're happy. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah.
Where can we see your work next? Halifax?
Yes, because you have to have a kid if you
the
go
future,
to
we
Eureka.
didn't get to that, yeah.
We've got a show, all being well, we've got a show in Brighton in autumn, and then we're hoping for a couple of other shows, hopefully to be confirmed
We're
soon.
doing the V&A with Cass. We're doing the V&A Weekender. I think that's in September, so that'll be mini interactives, couple of days.
Paul?
Could you record the interactions of the people and then create another program from them?
Well, so we don't hold on to any data, but the multiple was designed to capture people's animations or, their output to make an animation, which was a Wellcome Trust funded project. So it was an animation generator. And then because there was so much fun to be had with it, we turned it into a properly, playful, interactive thing. But so, yeah, we don't actually gather the data of interaction, but
We're not really allowed to.
We can, but what we can do is we can capture the data, network it, and run another interactive at the same time, and then the data disappears, for sure. Yeah. Any more?
Because I was just thinking of Squidlet. That was lovely.
Yeah, so Squidlets is one where you can put your face into it and become a little animated creature. And again, I think after 20 faces, they just
they weren't
deleted.
recorded anyway. They were just used for the live interaction, and then you'd watch it for 10 minutes, and then another one would take over.
I mean, so we love experimenting. So whenever we do a show, because there are a number of pieces in there, we have the privilege of always being able to put a piece that may be new into the exhibition to play test it with an audience, so we can make sense of what works and what doesn't, and how to develop it. And that's a wonderful thing of actually being able to put several pieces into one space at the same time. So we can have tried and tested. We know multiple appears in every show we do. It's people love it, whatever. We know it works. But then we can put something in that is in the process of development and get feedback. And the museums will know that as well. And that they know that it's being play tested, and they can give us feedback on it. And so, and if you are doing stuff in a museum, audience numbers are really important, and audience feedback's really important. So it's a real relationship you have with those institutions. It's a real goodwill one. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Just make one comment.
Yeah.
Just to say how joyous your work is, and the fact that you do it for free.
Mostly, yeah. Most shows we try. Yeah. Sometimes they charge, but yeah.
Sometimes they have to, yeah.
Joy is really important in today's age as well, isn't it? There's just a massive lack of it, and giving people agency is good as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We've got... Okay, so you can go next door, there will be wine.
Will I end up looking like that?
Yeah. That's...
Well done, Nicola.